All right, so again, we are on our second page, the confirmation page. Row 1, what I call row 1, was this. I guess was here. Row 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we've done those. What I told you was this thing we just did with the name and the text box is exactly the same as this one. So in other words, row 6 is exactly like row 5 is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my code, grab everything that was in row 5, copy it to the clipboard, and then go right underneath where I am, paste it in. All right, which means now this becomes row 6. So I'm just going to start changing it as I go down. And instead of name, this will say email address. And I will change this name to text box email address. And this will become required field validator email address. The control to validate will be text box email address. The error message will be email address required. And finally here, there we go. All right. Ideally, I did everything correct. I gotta make it that small for you to see it, but that's everything. And if you say I can't read that, it's the exact same stuff as row 5, except I changed row 5 to row 6. I changed it right here that's in blue from name to email address. I changed right here what's in blue from name to email address. I changed in here, it's in blue from name to email address, and in here from name to email address. All right? Now, I do want to show you something, okay? I don't even know how I want to show you this. I'm going to put something, what I'm going to, bless you, what I'm about to do, don't do this, okay? Don't put this in. But, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good way to show this to you. I'm going to add something. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to get rid of it right away, but I want to show this to you, so I'm going to make it bigger. All right? I'm going to go back to my text box, and I'm going to come over here, and where I have my list of validations, I'm going to find the one that says regular expression validator. I'm going to drag it down. I don't want you to do this. I'm going to get rid of it right away, but I'm trying to show you something, okay? And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go up to my properties here. I've got to remember which one it is. We still got all the regular things, control to validate, all this other good stuff, okay? All that stuff that you see in here. But there is a thing in here that says, is it validation expression? I don't remember. No, it's not. I don't know right now what it is, but there's one of these things that's in here that's going to bring up an ellipsis, and what it'll have in there is email address. So right now, we're not checking for a valid email address. Does everybody understand that? We would want to do that. We would want to add that kind of validator. But since Chapter 7 is on all the other validators, including the ones we haven't talked about yet, the author has chosen not to put that in here. All right? So like I said, I'm getting rid of it, but I just wanted to mention that to you for lack of better words, for completeness sake. Just so you know that would be another thing that we would want to put in there. But since we have not talked about it yet, we won't put it in. All right, so now what's left on here are our 2 buttons, correct? All right. So I'm ready to do row 7. So what I'm going to do is just come down here and put in row 7. And I'm going to tell you something that you may or may not have thought about, okay? Take a look, please, at your picture, or if you've got it, and otherwise I'll put that back up here in just a second. Okay, so what we want to add, if you look up on the screen here, you don't have your thing with you, We want to add these two buttons, correct? Would you agree, looking at it, these two buttons look mighty like these two buttons, except they say different stuff, so they'll have different names. Would you agree with that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back to my other form, my default.aspx. I'm going to grab from the bottom there those two buttons that we put in at the very bottom. There they are. I'm going to grab all that stuff for those two buttons that are right there. So that's all of this, and if you can't read it, I'll make it a little smaller. So I'm grabbing all that from the default.aspx form. I'm going to grab it all, copy it to the clipboard, jump back to my confirm, and paste it right in here. Why? Because now all I have to do is just some wordsmithing or whatever you call it. All right? So there might be a couple of other things I have to change. I'll look on my page here. All right. So form group 3.3, that looks good. ASP button. This will be button, I think we say send here. So it'll be button send. All right. Again, button primary, and this will be button send click. And this last one, I don't need that new for chapter 4 in here anymore. All right. This one will be button return. And button return click. Now, did I do that too fast? Does what I did make sense? I don't see the need for us to have to copy all that stuff. All right? I'm trying to get this done in a reasonable amount of time for you. So if I did that right, I'll jump right back to it in just a minute, but if I did that right and I go back into design mode, okay, hopefully everything looks okay. And how do I know? I don't know for sure if it looks okay or not, so I'm going to jump back one more time. I'm going to right mouse click on this and choose View in Browser, just to see if it's looking the way that it's supposed to be looking. That's all. Again, I know it's not perfect. That's not looking too bad. All right. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's why it's not looking too bad. I told it to run the other one though, but why did it run that one? Because I had the wrong one open. There we go. Now I want to right mouse click. Let's go back. I like to run it from, that's fine. I'll do it from here. View in Browser. There it says confirm.aspx up here. So what's left? That message, correct? That's at the very bottom? Oh no, this is probably the same thing I did before. You want to make a bet? Alright. And I should have looked and seen what line it said. But it's going to be with a button again. I know that because that's where it's screwed up before, so I'm sure I screwed it up here too. At least I'm consistent.
I think you have to double click on the buttons.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Same thing. Thank you.
Send design.
So let's go back into design mode. And wrong one. Yeah, this is calculate. I have changed them, even though it says calculate and confirm here. That's another thing I got to change, right? I've got to come back here. If you look on your screen, down at the bottom here, where we've got the actual buttons. All right. Oh, I did. This says confirm and this says calculate. It still does. So this one has to say send, and this one has to say return. Now I'm going to save, go back into design mode and double click on each button. All right, now I'm going to jump back in here, right mouse click, Come on, right mouse click. And choose View in Browser. See what it looks like. Hopefully this is, yeah, it says confirm.aspx, so hopefully I don't get any errors this time. Okay, remember that? We didn't do that. The unobtrusive validation. Okay? Because it's a new form. So we could go back and add that stuff. You know what I'm gonna do? Heck with that. I'm gonna go into my C# file and I'm gonna turn it off there. Alright, so I'm gonna close this. Hopefully you remember how we did that, and if you don't, you're gonna see it in just a second anyway. So in page load here, I'm going to put in unobtrusive validation mode equals, you know what it is, it's unobtrusive validation mode dot none. And if that's too big, let's make it smaller so you can see it. You've seen that before though, okay? So now let me try to save it, and one more time, let me save this, right mouse click, choose View in Browser, and hopefully it'll run. And there it is. Okay. Now, it's by no means perfect, and we still have to put in our code for this to make it do something. All right. But at least as far as I can tell, it's getting there. So that was the source, and this is what we put in for those two buttons. Okay. Again, one more time, if you look at your picture, on the very bottom now it says, click the send quotation button to send the quotation via email. Does everybody see that? The last line. Would you agree that the last line that's right here, the last line that's on this second form, is a lot like the last line on the previous form? So I'm going to copy that again. That'll become my row 8. So I'm going to jump back to the default.aspx file, go to the very bottom, grab all of this stuff that was in here, all that. Now that I look at it, I put a mountain, not a mount. Okay, so I'm going to grab all of this, copy it to the clipboard, save, go back to my confirm page, and paste all of that in. And now I just have to make my superficial changes on here. This can still be called label message because it's on a different form. So this one says, click the send quotation button to send the quote via email. They said quotation via email. I made a quote just so you could read it. The good news is we're now done with the ASPX page. So all we have to do is write our C#. Okay, so we have to put in the code for our send. So hopefully when I save this and jump back into design mode, I'll see that message on the bottom, and there it is. All right. And I should again be able to right mouse click, view this in the browser. And there it is, right there. Again, I have a little space issue here, so I can either do my wheel here and make it smaller if I want to show it all. All right, or I could adjust it. But again, the good news is this should still, and you see that it is. It's responsive. It's not beautiful, but you know what? I could read that on a phone. I don't know about you. All right, and that's what we're concerned with. Okay. Did any of you hear when, I think it was Ms. Zika that said this, when she asked about making this web-based? All right. I had talked to her earlier about it being web-based, and she is, I don't know how familiar she is with all the terms. You know, she does know that it would basically run via a website and stuff, but I think she's just taking for granted that if she wanted to do this from home on her phone, that this would be responsive, which would mean we would have to, any forms, etc., that we create, we would have to create them using Bootstrap. All right. Okay. So, it is time. So let's go in. See that? They're dev slopes. They sent it to me because I get half my courses I get through Rankin and half I get through my charter account. So I always get double mails on everything. I try to unsubscribe, but that doesn't even work. So, all right. So let's put in our confirm ASPX, all the code here. Okay. Now I'm looking here, and I'm hoping, I'm thinking I've got all my code here. I think I've got everything. I don't have any code for the return button. All right. So I don't know. Let's see. That return button. Did we put anything in that return button?
I tried to get it to go back, but
Yeah. Oh, because I left the line out. Great. Let's everybody, please look on the screen, please. Yeah, if you're going to screw something up, then screw it up major. All right. Remember this over here where we had the button that said return on it? Where is it? It's coming. That one. I left the line off. Not on purpose, but I left the line off. So I'm going to put it on there right now. In fact, for the return button, we don't want it on click here. The sole job of our return button is to return to the previous screen. Would you all agree with that? Okay. We don't have to write that into a click routine. Please remove the on click equals button return underscore click. We're going to replace it with two other lines. All right. So please remove that. All right. Here are the lines. First one is postback URL equals. Remember I told you we were going to use that tilde? There it is. Default dot ASPX. PX. Boy, oh boy. Default ASPX. That's the first line. All right, here is the second line. Causes validation equal false, not facile. False. There is no validation that has to be done here. There really isn't. All that's meant to do, well, I clicked the return button, I didn't mean to. Well, that's tough. You're returning anyway. So I very much apologize, but please make sure that the bottom of your return button looks like what's in the blue there. And I don't think there are any errors in there. That says literally jump back to the default page. All right. Everybody has that? All right, then let's go into our C# code. We have to actually write more stuff into our page load now. Okay, now think about this. Okay. Remember how I just ran this and I went in there and I right mouse clicked on here and I right mouse clicked in the ASPX file and I chose view code in browser, right? Do it again just so it all comes up so that you see it, etc. The point is, right now we haven't learned about what are called friendly URLs. And the way that this is written right now, somebody could type that into their address bar. Would you agree with that? Somebody could type that in? What's the problem with that? What? Well, that I don't mean that. I just, let's suppose you have the right host number. What's the problem with it right now? We don't have any sales price. We don't have any discount amount. We don't have any total price. So right now we'd be confirming nothing. And don't think that doesn't happen, that people put in the wrong whatever or see what they can do. All right. This would be much better if I was showing you PHP right now, because PHP you can really hose and screw with people a lot easier than you can with this. All right. So what we want to do to get around that is we want to let the system know when you go into your C# file, we'll check, and if you don't have anything in your sales price, we're going to grab those session variables and we're going to fill it up based on what we've saved, even if it's the last quote or whatever. So there's something in there. All right. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10 lines. And it's in their page load. Please put it in your page load. If session label, okay, this is all host. Give me a sec. Double quote. Double quote. There we go. It's going to be fixed in just a minute. Equal. No. Let's see. So what we're telling it here, bless you, we're reversing it. We're saying, hey, now we want to fill this up. We want to actually put values in there. Where are we getting the values from? I'm not going to run the program again. Where are we getting the values in our confirm box from? From the other page, from the default page, right? Those values are actually saved for us as session variables. So that's what we're going to grab. So I'm going to copy this. It's not going to be in there 3 times, but I'm going to make changes to it. It's much easier for me to do it that way. Okay, now I put those into 3 variables. Would you agree with that? I put them into 3 local variables. Now what do I have to do with them? Use them? How am I going to use them? Look at your picture. What's that? Yeah, well, they're not text boxes, they're labels, but you're right. We want to put them into the labels. We don't have to. We could have made them double. Making them decimal like that, we don't have to do any rounding or anything. All right. But they would work as doubles also. Oops.
Does it matter if they're doubles on the other?
No, it won't. No, because this is a bunch of copying that we're doing here. We're not doing any calculation here. That's why it actually makes sense to just make them decimal. They've already been computed. Right? It's like it's a calculator, you've already done the calculation. You hit the equal sign, you're not going to change it now. That type of thing. Now it makes it a decimal, but it doesn't put the dollar sign in there. Okay? Oh, come on. I think what I'm going to do, if there was some way to do it, if I was more of a hardware guy, I'd steal Mr. Corrigan's computer and I'd make him use this one for a day. And then when he came back and said, my God, this is a piece of garbage. How do you put up with it? And I'll say, well, good. Now, why don't you fix it? Now that is it for that routine. We didn't do our send yet, so we're going to do that in just a minute. But I will give you a second to put all that stuff in, if you're so inclined.
So what is session?
What happens, it allows you to go and exchange information between pages on a website. All right. So when you log in, basically, when you get into a shopping cart, that's what makes sure that when you put something in a cart and then you go to your cart page, that's the communication that takes place. It's all done via SSH. Pardon? Yeah, anything. Anything where you have to take information transferred between pages. All right. Anybody want to take a wild guess? Did I call that BTN? I actually call that BTN send. Good God. Now I can't change it either. It's too big a pain in the ass to change it. So I'm just going to leave it. That's a really terrible name. Okay. But can somebody tell me what do I want to have happen when I click the send button? Look on your piece of paper. What do I want to have happen when I click the send button? It's not meant to confuse you. It's not a trick question. Don't I want to send the email out? All right. But the other thing I want to do is, now I've sent the email, correct? So I want to take my labels and now I want to clear them out. All right. Not even my labels so much. I want to take the variables that I have and I want to clear them out. So I want to clear my session variables out so I can do another one. So when I come in here, the first things I want to do, session, sales price, equal no. That's how you clear a session variable out. So I want to clear out sales price, discount amount, and total price. All right, 3 more lines. Thank God, we're done. So I'm going to move this up a little so you can all see. Sure way I've got the dollar sign there. I'm going to leave that out and see if it still works. We'll find out in a minute. This is going to look a little weird, but just give me a second and we will go over what all of it means. Sign to fix that. What is wrong? Why doesn't that work? Well, this isn't good. Oh, dot text. There we go. That's all of it. So you can see. So I'll go up. That's the whole thing right there. What this is going to do, if you look again for the last time at your picture, right now on the bottom it says click the send quotation button. That'll change it to quotation, not send, quotation sent to Ethan Wilson at E.J. Wilson or whatever it is at Rankin at InsideRankin.org. That kind of an idea. All right, and this said send. It should have said sent. That was my error. All right, now for the big. I'll come right back to it, but I want to see if what I gave you was correct. I've changed the one I did. I've made a lot of changes as I'm going through here. I'm like, geez, I shouldn't have done that. Geez, I shouldn't have done that. So I'm changing it on the fly. So no excuse. There is no excuse for me. So, all right. So I'm coming up to our first page here. And we're going to assume we're a successful company. So we're gonna, I think 1,000 was our limit on there, so we're gonna just put 1,000 in there if this comes up. Whoa. Oh boy, I don't know what happened there. That isn't good. Huh? Well, that got really hosed up. That isn't good at all. So I'm going to jump back to here and go to my default page and start taking a look to see what I screwed up with. I'm going to change this around. Who doesn't want a copy of the code? Who doesn't? Okay, you don't want one? Okay. You what? You think you got it? Okay, good.
That's something.
So I'm going to take for granted that the other 6 of you do. Now, I hose something up I don't know what. All right, and I'll get it fixed by Monday, and I'll tell you what I did to fix it. But I removed a line someplace I shouldn't have removed. I'm sure I did that. All right, but I'm going to take this. I'm going to do a save all, and I'll just grab everything. So I'm going to start with the default page, and I've asked Paul to come in here a couple times because it will not let me print to the printer in here. I guess since I'm not a hardware guy, I'm not worthy. So I will print off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies. Make it 7. That's good. And finishing, print on both sides, landscape. I don't want it in color. All right, so there's the default page. There's the default ASPX page. Here is the confirm page. And finally, our confirm ASPX CS page. What I'm going to do is just staple everything together. Did everybody hear that? Just so you've got all the Chapter 4 stuff together. All right. It's probably going to take a good 10 minutes for all that stuff to print out because there was quite a bit of it. Yours works? Both pages work? Okay. You can if you like, or else I can just give you a flash drive and you can put it on there. All right. I want to look at mine. Yeah, I want to fix mine. So. I had a working version, but like I said, that was kind of silly of me. But I was really inconsistent with my names, so I changed a lot of stuff as we were going on here. That probably is never a good thing to do.
So no matter what I do on here, or like anything I type in for the default page, and I hit calculate, every time I hit confirm, it automatically comes with the calculate button for you.
Yeah, that's what
And
mine
it
does
goes
too.
right there.
We'll get it fixed. All right. My guess is that whatever it is, it's real minor. Okay, so we'll get it fixed. So if you'd all look up on the screen here for just a moment, not there. When we get to the next chapter, which is Chapter 6, we're not doing the thing in Chapter 5. All they ask you to do is put a trace in there that says, you know, we did this. That's all. And so I'm not doing that. I think that's a waste of our time. So we're going to go into Chapter 6. Notice we're doing something new then. Everybody see this? We're done with the quotation thing. We're going to make, as it says, a reservation form. And see what we have in here? We'll have drop-down lists. We'll have radio buttons, etc. This will look much more professional. This will look much more like something you actually could use on your phone. All right? And what really, believe it or not, doing this isn't very difficult. I've created this one several times. Then you'll notice we add validation to it in the next chapter. Thank you. We add validation to it then in the next chapter. That's Chapter 7. Then in Chapter 8, we bring session state back in. So we're able to go, after you request a room, you will have a confirm request where you will get a confirm message. All right? And Chapter 8's the first time we'll actually have 2 projects. All right? Because they show you 2 different ways of doing it. Then Chapter 9, we create a master page. All right? Then in Chapter 10, more bootstrap. And then finally in Chapter 11, notice this is where we do bring in, if you look up on the screen here, well, you can see that in here, we do bring in the menus and stuff. All right? After we get to that point, there is no assignment for Chapter 12. Then we jump back into the database. All right? For the rest of the class then, if we do any of these exercises, it'll all be with this Halloween Superstore. Because otherwise we have to build our own database. Okay? All right, I'll be back there in just a couple minutes.
Taylor, I'm gonna rip these off of you. Huh?
Sounds good.
So for whatever reasons, anytime I click anything, like I put anything in the top button and hit calculate, whenever I get the confirmed in the next page, it just comes with the calculate message like I click my group circle. So I don't know what exactly is what. Oh, you're pulling it up. Okay. Let's see what exactly is wrong. Huh? You know what is the freeloader, she's a I just don't know why. But thanks for the almonds, though. Something messed up. I just need to see what thing. We're ripping off her almonds
Yeah.
and shut the Elmore. That are
Oh,
still
I'll finish it.
Actually, it's fast.
All right, here's the first half. This is all the default stuff.
Okay.
Default ASPX and default ASPX, yes. Other stuff's different. Here is all the confirmed stuff.